In-house, in-house, in-house. Everyone talks about it. Everyone advertises it. Modern watches are all about in-house production, and the modern customer attaches great importance to the fact that all parts of their watch, from the bracelet to the smallest cog in the movement, come from a single source. However, this was not always the case, because in the 20th century, all renowned Swiss watch manufacturers such as Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, Patek Philippe, and many more relied on external partners. From the production of bracelets, cases, and movements up to watch dials. Take a look at this Universal Geneve Unicompax reference 12482 in 38mm from the 1940s. Without doubt, one of the most beautiful, best balanced, understated and functional chronographs of the entire 20th century. And surprise, surprise, this magnificent piece was the result of a collaboration between several companies. The caliber 285 was probably developed by Mattel and shared with Zenith. And the 18-karat gold case was made by a successful Swiss company that was acquired by none other than Rolex in 1988. Today, this way of working is frowned upon, and the end consumer considers the quality of non-in-house watches to be poor or even inferior. But this is absolutely wrong, because many vintage models such as this Unicompax clearly prove the absolute opposite, because they shine with the highest level of workmanship, attention to detail and reliability, despite the lack of in-house production. We have already talked in previous videos about what the stamps in case specs can tell you about the origin of your vintage watch. In Switzerland, in the 1920s, two systems of marks called Poinçon de Maître, literally stamp of the master, were introduced to identify the makers of watch cases. The hammerhead can be found on gold, platinum and palladium cases made in Switzerland, but outside Geneva. The key of Geneva for gold, platinum and palladium watch cases of a thickness of 0.3 mm or greater made in Geneva, and the shield for gold, platinum and palladium watch cases of a thickness less than 0.3 mm made in Geneva. Each manufacturer was given a number, whereby one of these manufacturers stood out over the decades and is still highly regarded by vintage watch enthusiasts today. I'm talking about the company with the number 136, CR Spillman & Co. SA, based in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. Nevertheless, there is hardly any information to be found about this renowned manufacturer, which we would like to change with today's video. So, who exactly was he? Why he is so highly regarded, and why does he play such an important role in the vintage watch world today? Let's do a quick experiment. Close your eyes and imagine a Rolex. Now open your eyes again. I'm pretty sure the watch you have in mind looks something like this Datejust. This, ladies and gentlemen, is of course a watch with the classic Rolex oyster case. Rolex stands for many things, but its case shape has been a household name for almost exactly 100 years now. In 1926, Hans Wilsdorf launched the first waterproof wristwatch on the market, resistant to dust, water and elements. The Oyster was the first case design with a screw-down crown and screw-down case back. So, and now it comes. It is worth noting that this iconic case was not originally manufactured by Rolex itself, but by a third-party supplier, CR Spillman. The La Chaux-de-Fonds-based case manufacturer began operations in 1884 under the joint name Spillman & Roten, before the company was renamed CR Spillman in 1888. The founder's name was Charles Rudolphe Spillman, and he ran the company until his death in 1938. He was the founder and managing director of the company. He was also a founder and member of the Executive Committee of the Society of Swiss Watch Case Manufacturers. I've never heard of it either, but it actually existed. His son Jules and his nephew Rodolphe managed the company in the years that followed. The factory building still exists in La Chaux-de-Fonds and is listed as a Swiss cultural heritage site of national importance. In my opinion, the architecture of this building is at least as impressive as the watch cases that left the factory. The company, which bore the hallmark 136 from 1934 onwards, became known above all for its collaboration with none other than the Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf. Rolex even went so far as to buy the Spillmann workshop in 1988, eventually bringing the entire case production in-house. But as important as Rolex was to the success of the Spillmann brand, its influence on the watch world clearly went beyond this partnership. In total, Spillmann produced cases for several Swiss watch manufacturers, including Rolex, Omega, Longines, Piaget, Audemars Piguet, IWC, Vacheron Constantin, Geneve, Zenith, and Doxa. So, if a third-party supplier now produces cases for so many watch brands, the question arises: what is the Spillmann DNA? The important aspect is that, unlike today, the watch brands I mentioned before did not design the cases themselves. The case manufacturer did. So the case manufacturer you turn to will determine the look of your end product. Of course, this is unimaginable today, but it was a common practice until the 1980s. CR Spillman has always incorporated small improvements into their design that enhance the robustness of their product line. The two-piece case construction is one aspect. This means that the bezel and case were made from one metal block and only the case back was removable, which improved stability. In addition, most cases had a slightly recessed crown to protect the winding stem from accidental shocks. Here you can see 4 example cases made by CR Spillman for Vacheron Constantin in the 1940s and 50s. All have a screw-down case back, a slightly recessed crown, and a 2-part case construction. In later years, Spillman's sons specialized in making cases for chronographs and produced the cases for all early Omega Speedmasters and most Rolex Daytonas. And there are too many designs to highlight them all. The Rolex Oyster is by far the most popular, but not Spillman's only achievement. One of the most famous models in the portfolio is certainly the chronograph case with angled lugs, as you can spot it on our universal example today. It is this one detail that makes this watch so special. The angled lug, a clear design sign that this case was made by none other than CR Spillman. You can find these unique cases on several Geneve, Doxa and Beauvais chronographs of the time, for example. The case design differs significantly from that of the Rolex Oyster, but still has a number of similar features. Spillman chronograph cases usually have the characteristic screw-down case back and a 2-part case construction. However, at 38 mm, these Spillman chronographs cases were somewhat larger than, for example, all Oyster pre-Daytona models in 36 mm. Another distinguishing feature is the specific 10-facet shape of the case back, which Spillman used exclusively for the design of its cases. But the case manufacturer Borgel, for example, and the Vailloux-Lecoultre chronographs also used this design. So what conclusion can we draw from all this information? It is probably not news to anyone out there that our hearts beat for vintage watches that are very robust yet elegant, intricately designed yet wearable. And CR Spillman was the manufacturer that stood for exactly these values. And as a supplier to several Swiss watchmakers' visions, their own DNA was still evident in all these pieces, especially through the case back, the integration of the crown and the overall case construction. Our personal conclusion is therefore quite simple. If you find a watch with the 136 hallmark, keep it. These Spillman cases are of the highest quality, some of the finest pieces made outside of Geneva. And as important as it is to celebrate them as makers of the first oyster case, their very own style still shines so uniquely through many gems of the last century. So that's all for today. We hope you were able to learn something new and hope to see you again in the next video.